Today, I'm gonna give you guys 5 reasons to not, you heard me correctly, to not fish bass tournaments. I'm just messing around. I'm gonna give you guys 5 things that you guys should be aware of before jumping into bass tournaments. You guys know that I'm an avid bass fisherman. I love it, I love competing, I love the tournament style. Like I said in the beginning, I was completely joking about not fishing, but there are certain things that you should be aware of before jumping into the entire tournament scene. So I've been asked a few times about it, so I'm gonna give you guys 5 things to be aware of before jumping into the tournament scene. So number 1 is bass fishing is very expensive, and especially tournament fishing. So nowadays, I mean, honestly, I'd argue that it's one of the most expensive hobbies out there, period, hands down. I mean, between boat, car, fishing tackle, gas, insurance, time's another one, we'll get into that. But between those aspects, fishing can be one of the most expensive hobbies out there. And especially nowadays, if you want top of the line boat, electronics, fishing gear, the best truck to pull it with, a brand new truck off the lot, you're looking at like $250,000 for a boat and a truck. I mean, it's stupid. We don't even need to get into that, but it's absolutely dumb on how expensive everything has got, especially for fishing. So that's number 1, is in tournament fishing, it's very expensive. You have all of the upfront costs of, like I said, your materials, and those tools such as your boat allow you to compete at that highest level. So if you don't have those tools, I'm not saying you can't win, but it definitely puts you at a disadvantage to not have all of the newest, latest, and greatest technology on your boat. So that's a cost that could definitely add up pretty quickly. Also, all your fishing rod, reel, line. I mean, line's expensive now too. Baits, all the tackle boxes and all that other stuff. It's another expense to jump into it. And you're not just going to be able to have a couple of different lures, because in tournament fishing, you have to be able to change and go to different lakes and succeed. And in order to do that, you can't just be narrow-minded in the type of approach that you have. So you may fish, you guys know, Lake Lanier is my home lake. It's a deep, clear water fishery. And I like, finesse tactics and fishing deeper water. Well, when I go to other lakes around the country, they can be, either clearer or dirtier, and I may have to fish much, much shallower than what I'm used to and throw different baits. For me, a shallow diving crankbait is 10, 12 feet deep, and that's extremely deep crankbait for a lot of other lakes. So my point is, you're gonna need a lot of separate individual tackle and setup and everything like that in order to compete at the highest level. Another thing to factor in is, again, all the boat gas and then your truck gas to hotels potentially if you're staying overnight and practicing for these events. But those are all the expenses that can add up very, very quickly. And just something for you guys to keep in mind is that bass fishing tournaments is not cheap by any means. Even if it's on your local lake, golly, it still can add up very quickly. So not to deter you guys, but again, that's the number one thing that you guys have to be aware of before jumping into bass fishing tournaments. Number 2 that you should be aware of is the amount of time that goes into this. Fishing is a very, 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 or can be very, very time consuming, especially when competing in bass fishing tournaments. When you got money on the line, when you're competing against other anglers and boats, you obviously want to do the best that you possibly can. And not only do you need to put in the money, but you need to put in the time. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you have to spend days on the water practicing for a lot of these lakes if you want to be successful. You can't always expect to go to a new body of water and just be able to jump in like that and to understand what the fish are set up like, what they're going to eat, how they're positioned, what phase of the transition they're in. So you need to spend time practicing. And again, fishing is one of those sports, guys, or hobbies that it takes a ton of time, and maybe a lot more than people think of in terms of fishing. I mean, a full day of fishing is an 8-9 hour day. I mean, that's more than a round of golf. So it's one of the most time-consuming hobbies out there, period, hands down. So it takes a lot of time. If you want to be successful, golly, guys are now practicing, a week before a tournament. You guys know the professionals do that, but now you got, local guys and guys just fishing little trails, going out the weekends before, a couple days before. And don't get me wrong, I've 100% been there and I'd love to do that. But for a lot of people, they jobs and family and everything like that gets in the way, so it's completely understandable there. But just know, before jumping into tournament bass fishing, it's going to take a lot of time. If you guys are loving this video, go ahead and drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel, share the video out with your friends, comment down below what you think the most important feature or topic is for new people jumping into tournament bass fishing, on what they should be aware of. With that said, let's jump back into topic number 3 of what you should know jumping into tournament bass fishing. Number 3 is a mindset. So it's completely different in tournament fishing, the mindset going into, competing at a higher level than just fun fishing. Hands down, no questions asked. That's one of the biggest things I learned when first jumping into tournament fishing. I would fun fish, those days before or whatever time I could going into those lakes, and then come tournament day when the pressure was on and you only have a limited amount of time and decisions to make, I quickly realized that practicing and fun fishing can be, but shouldn't be if you're competing in tournaments, very different than actual tournament fishing. And what do I mean by that? I mean that you have to have a very flexible mind and you have to adapt and fail quickly. So in a tournament, you are limited to it. Normally it's about an 8-hour day. And in that time, you have to make a limited amount of decisions on what a live animal, a fish, is doing in the lake. And it can change hourly, guys. And when I say hourly, I mean it's wild. I mean, sometimes, I don't know if I should say it. I'll say it. I'll be honest with you guys. Sometimes just clouds, like if clouds go in front of the sun, that can make a difference. So I won't go into any more details than that, but you need to have an open mind and be flexible and willing to adapt to any conditions that the water throws at you. Because again, this is not just it's not a coded output. It's not a predetermined output of what is going to happen. These are live, fish, and the day's conditions and everything change so quickly. So you have to be able mentally to adapt and, again, just fail quickly. Another thing, building off of number 3 about being flexible and, in the mental state of going into tournaments, is you can't have preconceived notions. As I mentioned in step number 2, it's great to put in the time and the effort to practice and figure out what stage the lake is in, where the fish are set up, what colors they're going to eat, what lure presentations they're going to eat. All of those things are very, very important. It's very important to prepare. However, as I just mentioned, the lakes and the fish change so quickly. I mean, I cannot tell you the number of times, guys, that I have practiced the day before a tournament, and the day of the tournament, the fish are doing completely different things, won't eat those baits, anything like that. So that's my point, where you can build a plan about how you're going to set up the tournament, but you need to be flexible and willing to adapt in the case that, the fish aren't cooperating that day. So don't go in with preconceived notions. Go in and just fish. Fish that day like you are going to go. You're competing, but you're going to have a good time, and you're just trying to catch as many fish as possible. Don't say, oh, this worked yesterday, so today I'm going to force this to work. I've been there. I've made that mistake. But to build on that, another aspect of the mental flexibility is failing quickly. And guys, tournament fishing will teach you how to fail quickly. Oh my goodness. So much, more than I even thought. It will teach you how to fail at fishing so often that you become good at it. And what I mean by that is you will realize very quickly, and some of the best guys out there, the professionals in the fishing world, understand this concept so well, is that building, again, if having a plan, if that plan's not working, failing quickly. And what I mean is if a particular bait or lure or presentation is not working, instead of throwing it for half the day, they may only throw it for an hour and then they switch up. And that's the difference between being a very successful tournament fisherman and, just a guy who goes out and finishes, middle of the pack. And again, I've been there, done that. I'm not undermining anything. I've done that a lot. But that kind of brings us to our 4th point, and what you should understand is you have to be able to be a loser. A loser, yeah, it stinks. So what I mean by that is, obviously it's fishing. There are a lot of variables that are out of your control. You can put in the time, the money, the effort, you can have the flexibility, and some days, guys, it's just not going to work out, period. And I tell you, fishing is one of the most humbling hobbies or sports out there, period, hands down, because it is so hard to win. You cannot go into these tournaments expecting to win or even place in the money every single time. Guys, there's professionals that are the best of the world, and they have bad tournaments. They have bad events. They have bad seasons. That's just part of it. It's fishing. Back to what I talked about before. These are live animals, conditions change, and it is extremely difficult to stay on top of fish and just be consistently good unless you are spending pretty much every day on the water, if I'm being honest. So that's one thing fishing has taught me, is to be a good loser. And obviously I want to win. I mean, golly, every time I do anything, I want to win. I'm very competitive, but it is a false expectation. I hear it so often as guys jump into tournaments expecting to do well. And you should. I mean, again, that's a really good mindset to go in positive and optimistic and everything. But realistically, guys, it is very difficult to stay consistently at the top of fishing. It takes a lot of effort and time. And quite frankly, for a lot of people and most of us out there, the only way to do that is just to spend every day on the water, and that's just not possible. So don't go in with an unrealistic expectation. Realize you're going to lose a lot more than you are going to win, but that's part of it, and it makes those victories that much better when you're competing out there and everything goes right and you succeed. So it's super fun. I've been on both sides, guys. I've won some tournaments. We've won a good amount of tournaments. We've lost probably way more, to be honest, and we've been out of the money on way more. A perfect example was this weekend. I fished a tournament this weekend. We had been doing great. The last couple weekends we fished very well, had 18 to 20 pounds. Some of our friends went out during the week and, did the same things we were doing and caught big bags of fish. And then come tournament day, we stuck to that plan. And it just, quite frankly, didn't work out. It started really well. We made some adjustments in the afternoon. We probably didn't change fast enough, if I'm being honest with you guys. But at the end of the day, we did what we knew, and we were around the right fish. I know that for a fact. We just unfortunately didn't get the bites. So that's part of it. Perfect example of us being a loser in tournament situations. So that's number 4. The 4th thing you should know. Number 5, and the final thing that you should know before jumping into tournament fishing is, this is kind of an iffy one, but I threw it in there because it always seems to happen, but it's the weather. You have to be willing to put up with the most brutal outdoor conditions out there. Everyone, always sees, videos or pictures and everything of fishing, and, it's always bluebird skies, and, all these YouTubers are out there, and it's beautiful, and a day like today, it's absolutely gorgeous. They're catching lots of fish. They're catching numbers of fish. But more often than not, guys, and I kid you not when I say this, but tournament day, it's going to be that massive cold front that drops into the 20s. It's going to be windy. It's going to be raining. It's going to be cold, and you have no protection from the elements out here on this boat. I mean, it's not like it's a center console or anything like that. So you are out there, and your fingers are cold, and it's hot in the summertime. So just be aware of that. And I bring all of that up because if you're going to jump into tournament fishing, make sure you invest, and back to step number 1, in the proper clothing or equipment to keep you guys comfortable and safe and dry or warm or cold or whatever it is out here on the water. You're going to get hit with nasty conditions, and in tournament fishing, most of the time, at least the ones I've been a part of, they don't cancel the event. You are going. Those dates are set in stone from the beginning, and you can't miss them. So make sure you invest in the proper clothes. But again, the 5th thing you should know, it's not always pleasurable and fun out on the water that you have to go fishing. You're going to have to fish in some brutal conditions. And for some people, again, knowing that, and maybe you just want to go out and have a good time in the sunshine and be comfortable, completely fine. That's up to you to decide. But that is the reason I'm making this video, is to tell you guys of kind of the 5 major things to be aware of if you haven't jumped into tournament fishing, or you're on the fence and you're just interested in learning more. So Hopefully you guys enjoyed those 5 topics to be aware of before jumping into tournament bass fishing. Just to recap real quick, we had number 1 is extremely expensive. Number 2, it costs a lot of time. Number 3, your mental or your mindset needs to be flexible and you need to be able to adapt and fail quickly. Number 4, you will learn to be a loser. And I don't mean that in any disrespectful way at all, but if you're tournament fishing, you know, if you know, for sure. I mean, you're just gonna lose more than you win. And if you don't, try to be a professional because you're pretty stinking good at it. So, and then number 5 is you're gonna face some brutal conditions out on the water. Make sure you prepare for that. It's not always a fun, you know, quote unquote experience out on the water. So you're gonna have some tough days out there. You're not gonna catch some fish some days. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and drop a like down below. I would really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so that you guys don't miss any of the videos coming out down the line. Comment down below. I'm really curious if you guys tournament fish now or you're interested in fishing a tournament, what trails you guys are in or what trails you're looking at jumping into. I'd be very curious to hear that. I did also see some comments the other day. If you guys see me, just to mention this, if you guys see me out at, you know, Hammond's fishing or out on the lake or honestly anywhere, come over and say hey. I would not mind that at all. I'd actually really enjoy that. I'd love having a conversation with you, meeting you guys. It's, again, for you guys, this is the reason I do this for you guys, so hopefully you guys learn something and continue to get better as fishermen each and every day. So that's my ultimate goal here, but come say hey. With all that said, stay tuned. I've got some tournament videos coming up. I'm on the Fisher of Men Georgia North Division, and our next stop is Lake Hartwell, and we're actually going up to practice there this weekend, and then next weekend, so probably when you guys see this, the weekend after this, will be our tournament. So I've got a bunch of footage coming down the line on that. Stay tuned to see how we do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate the support. I will see y'all in the next one. I don't ever slow up, no I don't